Subscribe, like, comment and share to support the channel. Thank you for the support. As Art prepares for the boss fight, Urk tells him that they couldn't casually approach the Queen Locust as her praying arms could nullify magic. Art hears this and tells her that he will pave a way and that she needed to wait for an opening and then strike. The battle begins as Art and the Queen Locust exchange multiple blows against one another at the speed of light. Art continues to wear a calm expression on his face as he dishes out his attacks while the Queen Locust smiles happily during the fight. The Queen Locust then decides to take a big swing towards Art and Urk, but he sees this coming from a mile away. As soon as the Queen Locust unleashes her heavy attack, Art dodges it with ease as Urk makes her way towards them. With a mad look on her face, she unleashes her own powerful attack. Art and Urk had done a combination attack that manages to land onto the Queen Locust. Urk looks at Art and was amazed over the fact that he had disrupted the Queen Locust's rhythm with a feint. The Queen Locust screams out in pain and begins to rush towards the both of them at once. Art then decides to met the Queen Locust head first and blocks her attack once again. With a calm look on his face, Art continues to block and attack the Queen Locust. Urk watches from the sidelines and thought about how they were having an equal exchange of offense and defense. She thought that there would be an opportunity for her to strike, but looking at the battle between Art and the Queen Locust was something that was beyond her comprehension. The ground around them continued to break into pieces as they met each other's attack. The Queen Locust soon decides to back off from the fight and summon her Black Locust minions to cover herself with. Seeing this reaction brings a smile to our boy, who notices that the Queen Locust had let her guard down. Using his isekai battle style, Art unleashed the ear-rending wave which blows away everything that the Queen Locust had summoned. Art could see that the Queen Locust had definitely felt his attack as she disappeared into the smoke, but he doesn't hesitate and rushes into the smoke headfirst as well. Upon entering the smoky area, Art feels something coming out from it which causes him to twist his body to the side. This reaction allowed him to dodge something quick that shot out from where the Queen Locust was. Urk was beside Art as he rushed in and was able to dodge the attack as well as it caused the explosion behind them. Seeing this sudden attack made Urk warn Art that the Queen Locust might still have a move up her sleeve, but the feeling of the Grim Reaper having her in its hands soon overcame Urk as she looked to where the Queen Locust was. She wore a fearful expression on her face as she wonders what that illusion was just now, but Art shouts at her to watch out as he felt that something wasn't right. Urk tries to compose herself, but she continued to tremble as she held her sword up high. She wonders what this feeling was as it wasn't exactly cold. She soon understood that this was an instinct. It was fear. The Queen Locust finally reveals herself once more with an upgraded look. She had revealed her own version of the Uchiha clan Sharingan as her body was covered in weird symbols. Both Art and Urk were startled to see its new form and wondered what it was. Art noted that the Queen Locust was probably unleashing its true power now. As they both brace for the upcoming fireworks show, Art tells Urk, "Here it comes." The Queen Locust had unleashed multiple beams of light which our boy still manages to dodge by bending it like Beckham. Urk could see that Art was busy with dodging the attacks which made his advantageous counterattack sealed. She knew that she needed to do something because at this rate, they would lose. With a determined look in her eye, Urk had decided on something. Art had finally been cornered by the Queen Locust as she lets out one final massive beam of light. Art could simply stare at it as he couldn't dodge it at this rate. The Queen Locust attack finally lands onto Art which causes a massive explosion, but Art was still able to open his eyes as he was alarmed to see that Urk had blocked the attack for him. She tells him that she was going to bridge the gap between them, and that she needed Art to use her as a decoy in order to land a decisive blow on the Queen Locust. "What?" shouted Art as he couldn't believe her plan, but Urk tells him that she could also help with a determined look on her face. Seeing this side of her brings shock to Art, but he soon smiles. In the midst of the boss battle, he tells her Urk that he had one request. Bowing his head to her once again, Art tells Urk to command him to defeat the Queen Locust. Urk was too stunned to speak for a moment. I mean, who would say this in the middle of the boss fight? Art wanted it like the time when they had first met, and when he had felt conflicted at the ball. He tells Urk that her words have always transformed him. "Your words give me courage. There's nothing more to it. It's all because they are from you, Urk." Art then moves in with his Riz move and hugs Urk, begging her to command him as he didn't want her to get hurt. Urk herself began to recall the past moments where she had given orders to Art. Her eyes revealed that she had come to a decision. With a firm voice she orders Art to defeat the Queen Locust. "At your command," said Art as a new sense of fighting spirit arose in his eyes. He began to cast the enchantment Physique Boost which shone a bright pillar of light onto him. The bright pillar of light radiated throughout the battlefield so brightly that even Urk had to cover her eyes from the brightness. Art had finally achieved Super Saiyan mode, a Riz level of over 9,000. Art had reached the immaculate perfection state. The moment he touches the handle of his sword, the Queen Locust unleashes a barrage of laser attack once again towards him, but this time was different. Art had instantly appeared right behind the Queen Locust, dodging her attacks so fast that it left her speechless. The Queen Locust tries her best to turn around quickly to attack Art once more, but it was too late. As you know in anime, the moment a swordsman sheaths his sword back, the fight was already over, and that was exactly what Art did. He slowly sheaths back his sword as pieces of rocks floated around him and the Queen Locust. Using his isekai swordsmanship once again, Art had managed to slice the Queen Locust and everything else into half. The technique he used was the Zenith Blade, single word, cleave. All that remained behind where Art kneeled was a deep gash into the ground. The Queen Locust had been defeated in a single blow by our boy. As soon as it was all clear, Urk appears and shouted that they had won. The sun shined bright enough to make her cover her eyes as she searches for Art. She sees him standing over in the distance, but Art soon falls to the ground. "Art!" shouted Urk with concern as she rushes over to his side. After the boss battle with the Queen Locust, we return to the Isfil family estate's garden. Art appears to be fine as Urk asks him about how he was holding up. He tells her that he was doing fine thanks to her. Ramon was present as well and commented that it was expected of their hero. But Urk continues to question Art about whether he was sure that he was okay as she saw that he couldn't move until yesterday due to his magic's backlash. Art begins to move swiftly to show Urk that he was fine. Now since he had drank a ton of emergency potions that he made through alchemy, Art explains that alchemy was a life magic that combines materials to create something new. Urk agrees with Art about his potions as she tells him that everyone here along with Marcos were able to recover due to them being truly impressive. Art was glad to hear that and mentions that it was thanks to everyone. He soon asks her if Fry had returned to the capital, but Urk completely skips over any topics of Fry and asks her grandfather about what he wanted to discuss. The scene then changes to show that Princess Leia had arrived at the estate and had brought along tons of servants along with tons of goodies. "Look at that money flex, a grant of nobility," shouted Urk as she asks Princess Leia about what it meant. She explains to them that since Art had slain an S-rank monster and saved the kingdom, it was a reasonable reward, but she was upset over the fact that it was only a baronetcy as she wanted the kingdom to give Art at least a viscountcy. She noted that it was shameful, but her father had scolded her about the gold ingot incident. Urk agrees with her father and reminded Princess Leia that she needed to reflect on her actions a bit. Ramon cuts in to remind everyone present that it was certainly happy news. Urk looks at Art and asks him if he was okay with it as he was going to climb from a commoner to a noble. Now, Art thought about the reward and realized that it meant that he was going to be the same as Urk and Wendy, with his fist gripped tightly onto his chest. Art was glad to hear that what he did was incredible enough to warrant such a reward. Urk was happy to see and hear his response to the reward as she started to smile as well, but seeing the plate in front of her empty made her shout out in fury, "The cookies!" Urk shouted as Princess Leia tells her that they were all gone with her mouth stuffed full of the same cookies. Ramon laughs over Urk's cute reaction and tells her that they could have more prepared but needed flour and sugar. Art was interested and asks Ramon if sugar was the one that comes from the sugar flowers. Ramon tells him that he was right but that sugar was a luxury. Due to the effects of the black locusts, the prices have skyrocketed. Art then suggests an idea about mass-producing the sugar, but Ramon was flustered over the fact that monsters and insects were in the way, especially the insects. Art looks at him and reveals that he might have a solution to that problem. Hearing him say that causes the girls to jump from their seats as they begged Art to tell them more. He was surprised by their reactions and informs them that he would just be using alchemy. Urk immediately orders her servants to gather the sugar flower farmers. Princess Leia was impressed by her and noted that she was being swift and efficient. Soon enough the sugar flower farmers had been gathered together as Art introduces himself to them. And so the sugar flower persuasion operation began. These are fertilizer locusts. By feeding them more that had been improved through alchemy using the properties of the black locusts, they transformed from pests that ate crops into beneficial insects that produce fertilizer. Art then continues to persuade the sugar farms on using his ideas. He soon comes to the end of explaining his plan and asks the farmers about what they thought about it. One of the farmers introduces himself as Gald. He then grabs onto Art's shoulders and cried tears of joy. He tells Art that he was such a good man. Gald shakes Art's hand with agreement over his plan while telling him that they were willing to pay however much it takes. But Art didn't want the money, just the agreement to share until they can stabilize the supply. Art then moves on to ask everyone about what they thought about hot springs. This piques Urk's interest as she asks him about what hot springs were. Art reveals to everyone that it was something that they can create with alchemy. Hearing this made Gulb wonder if they could join as well. Urk agrees with his request and informs them that they should all share the joy together. Art then asks her if the orphanage was selling the potions. She tells him that they were. As the scene changes to a church, Art was glad to hear that as they needed the potions for the hot spring. Sister Rax greets them and thanks Urk for her help during the monster raid. Urk apologies to her for the sudden visit while Art introduces himself. Sister Rax noted to Urk that she had a cute attendant, but Urk corrects Rax by stating that Art was not an attendant but someone who was important to her. Rax apologies for her previous statement and asks about what she could do for her today. Urk informs her that they wanted to place a recurring order for their potions. Rax replies back to her that the potions would be 200 G each and if she was sure about that. Art cuts in to inform her that they actually needed it for the hot spring. Rax was happy to hear that, just as Urk informs her that if she has any potent potions available then Art and her would be happy to have them. Rax thought about it and informs both of them that she was afraid that the common people wouldn't understand their use. This was when Art reveals to them that there was a time where he drank them every day, like 10 of them. Rax instantly turns to look at Art, overhearing the word every day. Seeing her reaction made him realize that it might have been a bad thing after all. Rax scolds Art and tells him that drinking too much medicine could lead to addiction and in the worst case scenario, he could die. Art realizes that was why they stopped working and tells Rax that he doesn't drink it anymore. Rax and Urk soon cuddled together as she tells Urk to not take her eyes off Art. Urk agrees with her suggestion and replies back that she was going to be more vigilant. Art then proceeds to ask Rax about why does a high-density potion cost so cheap. Hearing that question made her show a sad look on her face. She soon reveals to Art that it was because she was a dark elf. Our boy was stunned to see this, as he had forgotten that dark elves were discriminated against just because they were said to be close to the devil. Rax adds on to say that the merchants told her that the products made by the so-called tainted elves were disgusting. Urk was furious to hear this and asks Rax to tell her who these merchants were so she could give them a piece of her mind. Hearing that reply made Rax thank Urk for her consideration. "Sister, we're hungry," shouted a few young kids that appeared behind Rax. She looks at them and informs the kids that they still had guessed. The kid mentions to Rax that there was a leak in the roof again, and so she tells him that they would fix that later. Urk and Art stood back to see Rax comforting the orphan kids. She tells them that she didn't care about what they said about her, as all she wanted to do was to protect these kids. Rax simply adores the humans after all. Seeing this action stuns both Art and Urk, who then exchange looks with one another. Art then asks Rax if they could help her, and she was happy to hear that. The scene changes to a sparking hot spring room. Art stood in front of a group and tells them that he was going to create the hot spring now. He recalled a past memory from when Wenty had forced him to make the rejuvenating secret hot spring. Art began to cast his alchemy magic, combining high-level potions with hot water, adding washing lavender and rosemary. Using alchemy magnesium large or in various materials all together, hence Art had created a hot spring that uses high potion bubble bath water. The girls immediately went to check on the water and were impressed by how soft it was and how bubbly it felt. Rax was impressed by the lovely rose fragrance. Gald, on the other hand, was unsure if they could use such an amazing thing. Art wore a joyful expression on his face as he tells him that this one was for the ladies and that they were going to another room. Urk then calls out to Art and informs him that he had really outdone himself this time and thanks him for his efforts. Our boy was stunned but smiled happily at Urk's compliment. She continues to watch him leave the bath as he directs the gentleman to another room. The girls then started to undress themselves to enjoy the bath. As they undressed, Rax asked Urk if she wanted to join Art in the bath together. That question made her flustered as she couldn't reply back to her. Feeling embarrassed by her reaction, Urk tells the girls that they should just get in the bath. Rax giggles over how adorable Urk was acting. This image was made for the boys. All hail the author and drawer. The three ladies had finally entered the heavenly bubble bath, where they rubbed themselves clean with the delicious water that Art had made. As they immersed themselves into the water, they were happy to feel that their skin was so smooth and that their hair felt silky. All three girls felt that they were in heaven, back in the boys' bath. Ramon and Tet were hugely impressed by Art's skill to make the bath and commented that he was capable of anything and was a gift bestowed by the heavens. Urk could hear that Art was enjoying himself as she hears the boys talking loudly in the bath. Rax commented that she had never met someone as kind as Art before. Urk agrees and tells her that when it comes to himself he was hopeless, which made Rax question why he would need her since he could easily earn his own keep. Urk reveals that Art always goes all out for others and that he was strong, straightforward, and kind. Rax instantly smiles at this reply and playfully teases Urk about how much she loves Art. Hearing that kind of response causes her to be flustered once again. Rax then gave her a piece of advice, telling Urk that Art was a really wonderful person, which was why she needed more confidence to support. Urk instantly blushes hard as she submerges herself into the water. Seeing this reaction made Rax realize that even Art may not have noticed her feelings yet. Rax then tells Urk that she fully accepts her potion request, hoping that for the sake of the children she could provide some assistance to her. Urk looks at her and grabs her hand in response while telling her that they were counting on her. Rax then changes the topic over to giving Urk a cute makeover since they were here. Urk couldn't believe that someone had called her cute, while Princess Leia voiced out that she wanted one as well. The scene then changes to a carriage where a voice is giggling. A letter and a picture of Art is seen in someone's hand as the voice spoke out loud that all the pieces were in place. It is revealed to belong to a man in a big hat, who wore an excited smile on his face as he thought about how he needed to make sure to get his hands on the big business person Art. Thanks for watching the latest part from the voice of Manhwa. Subscribe for more content and don't forget to comment below what you want to see in the future. Like and share for more.